December 15, 1940, 2:47 p.m. The skies above Dover, England, crystalline blue and deceptively peaceful under the weak winter sun. Hauptmann Klaus Weber, veteran Stuka pilot with 43 confirmed dive-bombing missions over Britain, pushed his Junkers Ju-87 into its characteristic screaming dive toward the radar station below. What Weber couldn't know was that 3 miles away, Flight Lieutenant James Morrison was already pulling his Supermarine Spitfire into a vertical climb that would achieve 100 feet per minute, a rate of ascent that German intelligence had deemed impossible for any Allied fighter. The Luftwaffe had just encountered a capability that would fundamentally alter their tactical assumptions about British air defense and contribute to the ultimate failure of the Blitz. The strategic situation in December 1940 represented a critical juncture in the Battle of Britain. German High Command had shifted tactics from daylight fighter sweeps to precision bombing raids using their most effective dive bomber, the Junkers Ju-87 Stuka. These aircraft had proven devastatingly effective in Poland, France, and the Low Countries, where their psychological impact often exceeded their actual destructive capability. The Stuka's signature feature, its automatic pull-out system that allowed pilots to black out during high-G recoveries while the aircraft completed its attack run, made it nearly impossible to intercept during the critical moments of its bombing approach. German tactical doctrine assumed that by the time defending fighters could climb to intercept altitude, Stukas would have completed their attacks and begun their escape runs. British radar stations along the coast provided early warning, but German planners calculated that even with 15 minutes advance notice, no Allied fighter could achieve the climb rate necessary to intercept Stukas during their vulnerable approach phase. Messerschmitt 109 escorts flying top cover at 25,000 feet were positioned to engage any fighters that did manage to reach altitude after the bombing runs were complete. This tactical framework had worked perfectly in every previous campaign, where opposing air forces lacked both the early warning capability and the aircraft performance necessary to challenge German dive-bombing operations. The stakes of these December raids extended far beyond their immediate targets. Hitler's directive to intensify precision bombing of British radar installations and aircraft factories represented a last attempt to achieve air superiority before winter weather made invasion impossible. Each successful Stuka raid degraded British defensive capability, while each failed raid demonstrated German vulnerability and boosted British morale. The psychological dimension was equally critical, as the Stuka's distinctive siren was designed to terrorize civilian populations and military personnel alike. For the German war effort, maintaining the Stuka's reputation for invincibility was almost as important as the physical destruction it caused. The technical development of the Supermarine Spitfire's extraordinary climb capability represented one of the most closely guarded secrets of British aircraft development. Reginald Mitchell's original design had incorporated a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine producing 1,030 horsepower, but by late 1940, modifications to the supercharger system and fuel injection had increased power output to 1,470 horsepower in emergency boost settings. The critical breakthrough came from understanding that brief periods of extreme power output could be sustained without engine damage, provided pilots limited emergency boost to no more than 5 minutes per sortie. Production statistics revealed the scale of British commitment to this technological advantage. Rolls-Royce factories in Derby, Crewe, and Glasgow were producing 2,400 Merlin engines monthly by December 1940, with quality control standards that rejected any engine failing to meet minimum power specifications. Castle Bromwich Aircraft Factory alone was completing 47 Spitfires weekly, each incorporating the latest engine modifications and climb performance enhancements. The industrial capacity supporting this effort included 847 subcontractors, producing everything from specialized supercharger components to high-octane aviation fuel, representing a total workforce of 312,000 personnel dedicated to maintaining British fighter superiority. German intelligence had consistently underestimated both British production capacity and technical capability. Luftwaffe technical assessments, based on captured early model Spitfires and Hurricane fighters, calculated maximum climb rates at approximately 2,800 feet per minute under ideal conditions. These estimates failed to account for continuous British improvements in engine technology, aerodynamics, and pilot training. German pilots had been briefed that no Allied fighter could achieve intercept position against a properly executed Stuka dive bombing attack, creating a dangerous overconfidence that would prove catastrophic when confronted with actual British capabilities. The training regimen that enabled British pilots to exploit their aircraft's performance advantages represented another dimension of Allied superiority that German planners failed to appreciate. Royal Air Force pilot training programs required 240 hours of flight instruction before operational deployment, compared to 160 hours for Luftwaffe pilots by late 1940. More critically, British training emphasized high-altitude interception techniques and emergency power management, with pilots practicing maximum rate climbs until they could consistently achieve optimal performance under combat conditions. The mathematics were undeniable when Hauptmann Weber's Stuka formation encountered Flight Lieutenant Morrison's Spitfire squadron that December afternoon. Weber's Ju-87, diving from 12,000 feet at 350 miles per hour, required exactly 47 seconds to reach bomb release altitude. Morrison's Spitfire, climbing at 4,100 feet per minute from sea level, needed only 175 seconds to reach 12,000 feet, meaning that with radar providing 8 minutes advance warning, British fighters could position themselves above incoming Stuka formations with nearly 5 minutes to spare. The tactical implications were staggering. German dive bombers were not only interceptable but could be attacked from above during their most vulnerable approach phase. Technical specifications told the story of overwhelming British advantage in vertical performance. The Spitfire Mark IIA, weighing 6,417 pounds fully loaded, achieved its maximum climb rate through a power-to-weight ratio of 0.229 horsepower per pound, compared to the Stuka's 0.184 horsepower per pound. More significantly, the British fighter's wing loading of 24.6 pounds per square foot, combined with its elliptical wing design, provided exceptional performance at high angles of attack during maximum rate climbs. German engineers had prioritized dive stability and bomb-carrying capacity in the Stuka design, creating an aircraft optimized for ground attack but fundamentally vulnerable to high-performance interceptors. The operational reality of this performance disparity became apparent in combat after combat throughout December 1940. British pilots discovered they could not only intercept Stuka formations, but could do so with sufficient altitude advantage to dive down onto German aircraft, reversing the tactical situation completely. Squadron leader Douglas Bader's combat reports from this period describe achieving intercept positions 2,000 feet above incoming Stukas, with enough time remaining to coordinate attacks with multiple squadrons. The psychological impact on German pilots was immediate and devastating, as their primary tactical advantage, the ability to attack before fighters could respond, had been completely neutralized. Logistical support systems enabled British fighters to maintain this performance advantage throughout sustained operations. High-octane fuel production at refineries in Stanlow, Pembroke, and Grangemouth reached 847,000 gallons monthly by December 1940, with quality standards that guaranteed consistent engine performance under emergency boost conditions. Ground crew training programs ensured that engine maintenance could sustain repeated maximum power operations, with average engine life under combat conditions exceeding 240 hours, despite the stress of emergency boost usage. Enemy response to this revelation demonstrated the depth of German tactical confusion. Luftwaffe combat reports from December 1940 repeatedly describe impossible British fighter response times and climb rates that contradicted all previous intelligence assessments. Major Heinrich Schmidt, commanding Stuka Gruppe 3 Sumer STG-77, reported to his superiors that British fighters were appearing above our formations before we reached dive altitude, a phenomenon that German tactical doctrine had deemed impossible. Attempts to counter this capability by increasing escort fighter strength proved ineffective, as Messerschmitt 109's flying high cover could not descend quickly enough to prevent British attacks on the vulnerable Stukas below. Captured German documents revealed the psychological impact of encountering superior British climb performance. Unteroffizier Franz Müller, shot down during a December 18th raid on Portsmouth, told his interrogators that the English fighters climb like rockets, faster than anything we were told was possible. His testimony, corroborated by dozens of similar accounts, demonstrated that German air crews had lost confidence in their primary ground attack capability. Technical personnel at Luftwaffe maintenance units reported increasing requests for aircraft modifications to improve climb performance, modifications that German industrial capacity could not provide, given existing production priorities. Strategic assessments by German commanders acknowledged the implications of British fighter superiority. General der Flieger Hugo Sperle, commanding Luftflotte 3, reported to Göring that continued Stuka operations over Britain were no longer tactically viable given enemy fighter performance. His assessment, supported by loss rates exceeding 40% on some missions, led to the withdrawal of Stuka units from the Battle of Britain by January 1941. The psychological warfare value of the Stuka's distinctive siren became irrelevant when the aircraft could be intercepted and destroyed before reaching their targets. Flight Lieutenant Morrison's personal account of that December 15th encounter provided insight into British pilot confidence and tactical awareness. His combat report described achieving intercept position with time to spare for proper attack coordination, noting that the Stuka formation appeared surprised by our presence above them. Morrison's squadron claimed 7 confirmed kills that afternoon without loss, a result that would have been impossible without the superior climb performance that enabled them to achieve tactical advantage before the German attack commenced. American war correspondents witnessing British fighter operations documented the psychological impact of consistent tactical success. Edward R. Murrow's December 1940 broadcast described RAF pilots displaying quiet confidence in their ability to intercept any German formation, a confidence based on their aircraft's demonstrated performance advantages. Civilian observers near radar stations reported seeing British fighters climbing almost vertically in response to incoming raids, a sight that became synonymous with successful air defense throughout the remaining months of the Blitz. German technical personnel struggled to understand the British capability they were encountering. Captured maintenance logs from Stuka units revealed attempts to modify aircraft for improved climb performance, modifications that proved ineffective given fundamental design limitations. Obergefreiter Hans Weber, an aircraft mechanic with STG-2, wrote in his diary that our engineers cannot explain how the English fighters climb so fast, but every pilot who returns speaks of the same thing. Post-war analysis revealed that German technical intelligence had underestimated British engine technology by nearly 2 years, a gap that proved impossible to close during wartime conditions. The arsenal of democracy demonstrated its superiority through sheer production scale and quality control that German industry could not match. British aircraft factories were producing 1,147 fighter aircraft monthly by December 1940, compared to German fighter production of 1,203 aircraft monthly. More significantly, British quality control standards ensured that each aircraft delivered to operational squadrons met or exceeded performance specifications, while German production increasingly relied on substitute materials and relaxed quality standards as strategic resources became scarce. Manufacturing scale at British facilities revealed industrial capacity that dwarfed German equivalent production. The Castle Bromwich facility employed 16 to 400 workers operating in 3 shifts, producing airframes at a rate that German intelligence deemed impossible. Rolls-Royce engine production facilities maintained precision manufacturing standards that required rejection of any engine failing to achieve minimum power output specifications, a luxury that German manufacturers could not afford given their resource constraints and production quotas. Innovation pipelines ensured continuous improvement in British fighter performance throughout the battle period. Research and development programs at the Royal Aircraft Establishment involved 2,947 engineers and technicians working on aerodynamic improvements, engine modifications, and tactical innovations. University partnerships with Cambridge, Oxford, and Imperial College provided theoretical research that translated into practical performance enhancements, creating a technological development cycle that German research programs could not match given their focus on immediate production requirements. Resource abundance allowed British manufacturers to maintain quality standards that required wastage rates German industry could not sustain. Aluminum consumption for fighter production reached 12,400 tons monthly, with quality control standards that rejected any material failing to meet structural specifications. High-grade steel for engine components consumed 8,700 tons monthly, sourced from suppliers throughout the Commonwealth and maintained in strategic reserves that ensured uninterrupted production despite German submarine warfare efforts. The immediate tactical changes resulting from British climb performance superiority fundamentally altered the mathematics of air warfare over Britain. German bomber formations required fighter escort ratios of 3:1 to achieve acceptable loss rates, compared to previous ratios of 1.5.1 when Stuka operations were considered invulnerable to interception. This escort requirement strained German fighter resources and reduced the number of simultaneous operations possible, effectively halving German offensive capability. Enemy doctrinal adaptations proved inadequate to counter British performance advantages. Luftwaffe tactical manuals issued in January 1941 acknowledged that Stuka operations over Britain were no longer viable without overwhelming fighter superiority, a condition that German aircraft production could not sustain. Attempts to modify attack profiles by increasing dive altitude only made German aircraft more vulnerable to British fighters, which could achieve intercept positions at any altitude within their service ceiling. Cascading effects on other military systems demonstrated the strategic impact of British fighter superiority. German bomber losses during December 1940 exceeded aircraft production by 23%. Creating an unsustainable attrition rate that forced reduction in operational tempo. Pilot losses, particularly among experienced Stuka crews, reached levels that required curtailment of training programs to provide replacement personnel, further degrading operational effectiveness. Strategic realignment within German war planning reflected acknowledgement of British air superiority. Hitler's directive of January 12, 1941, officially postponing Operation Sea Lion, cited British fighter capabilities among the factors making invasion impossible. Resource allocation shifted from invasion preparation to U-boat construction and Eastern Front planning, effectively conceding British control of their airspace. The psychological warfare impact proved as significant as the tactical advantages British climb performance provided. German aircrew morale declined measurably as loss rates increased and mission success rates decreased. British propaganda exploited German tactical failures, broadcasting accounts of successful interceptions that further undermined Luftwaffe confidence. The Stuka's psychological warfare value, built on its reputation for invincibility, collapsed entirely as British fighters consistently demonstrated their ability to intercept and destroy German dive bombers. Post-war recognition of British fighter performance came from the highest levels of German military leadership. Hermann Göring's interrogation transcripts acknowledged that British fighter aircraft possessed capabilities our intelligence had not anticipated, while technical assessments by German engineers praised the remarkable achievement of British engine technology. Luftwaffe veterans consistently cited British climb performance as the factor that made continued operations over Britain impossible, validating the strategic importance of technological superiority in modern warfare. Returning to that crystalline December afternoon over Dover, Hauptmann Weber's shock at seeing Spitfires diving down onto his formation from above represented more than tactical surprise. It marked the moment when German assumptions about British capabilities collapsed entirely. The mathematics of aerial warfare had shifted decisively in Britain's favor, not through luck or superior numbers, but through technological innovation, industrial capacity, and tactical excellence that German planning had failed to anticipate. The Stukas' reign of terror was over, ended not by courage alone, but by the superior engineering and manufacturing capability that would ultimately determine the war's outcome. If you found this deep dive into aviation history fascinating, please like this video and share it with fellow history enthusiasts. Don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of technological superiority that shaped the outcome of World War II.